Returning to 2014, Zhou Yang came to Arsenal's youth training and found that his running speed was getting faster and his physical fitness was getting better. That's all, his core is still a 200-pound winger. A story about Arsenal's diamond waist. I am very good at running and shooting, and similarly, I also like to push others out of bounds. Looking at the fast wingers across from me, I wanted to give him a 200-pound dry land scallion. Keywords of the novel. English Premier League Arsenal, King of Insulators without pop-ups. English Premier League Arsenal, King of Insulators TXT Complete Collection Download. English Premier League Arsenal, King of Insulators Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Arsenal Youth Training, Defenders Rush. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Arsenal Youth Training, Defenders Rush. Zhou Yang suddenly stood up and looked around, with all the greenery in front of him. His gaze was first filled with confusion, and then countless memories swept through the vortex in his mind. In the distance, a long pass plunged into the goal, and he quickly retreated with his back to the goal. In a moment of shortness of breath, he had already chosen the landing point for the football. In no time, Zhou Yang lightly jumped on the side, holding the ball in front of his chest while lifting his right foot. At this moment, as long as he takes a side shot and volleys into the air, he is confident in scoring the ball from the front outside the penalty area. 2014, Arsenal Youth Training, Zhou Yang. The memory is completely released. Ashina's youth training full-back, a member of the U17 team, is mainly a 17-year-old team. This is a friendly training match with Leeds United's 17-year-old youth training team. Boom! With a powerful and heavy kick, he drew onto the football. With a bang, the football bounced onto the frame and flew out of bounds with a thud. Out of bounds ball. The opponent is Leeds United's youth academy. What? Zhou, what are you doing? The guard teammate next to him, Oaks, was angry. This idiot from China actually shot towards his own goal. What are you doing? Sorry, I was nervous about passing the ball, thinking there was someone behind me. Zhou Yang propped up his knees with both hands, his damn memory of rebirth. Forgot about himself in Arsenal's youth training. Is this Chinese person an idiot? Is he using a volley in front of his own penalty area from behind, or is he facing his own goal? Leeds United players laughed heartily. What exactly does he want to show off? Show off his strength. Oh my God, no one can kick this kind of ball, but it's ridiculous to throw it into his own goal. You switch and let him attack. Do you think he can play? There wasn't anyone around him just now, you know. This is Charlie, who their defender prepared to give the ball to. Look, Charlie is stunned. Leeds United's youth training players burst into laughter. Arsenal goalkeeper Charlie was indeed stunned, not stunned. If the kick just now was played by a forward from Leeds United, he would have been in big trouble. With such shooting power, speed, and a seamless volley, he couldn't react at all. Fortunately, this is my own defender, Zhou Yang. Shit. Where is it going? He looked at the spot where his eyeball was hit and looked puzzled. What is this guy doing? He thought Leeds United's forward was on the side and shouldn't have disrupted the attack like this. It's better to kick out of the boundary, isn't it? Did he lose his sense of direction? A terrible experience. Charlie clapped his hands, gesturing for everyone to return to the penalty area. At the same time, he instinctively glanced at Zhou Yang. Zhou was shocked by the ball he had just scored, and those who didn't face it directly couldn't feel the pressure of the shot just now. Zhou Yang gave Leeds United a corner kick. Zhou Yang walked to the penalty area and defended with his other teammates, everyone guarding in the penalty area. He remembers that he was 1.78 meters tall this year, and many of the Leeds United attacking players were taller. All he could do was harass the opponent's attacks. The advantage of Leeds United U17 lies in corner kick attack and wing penetration. Once the wings take off, the attack is very sharp. Even if the maneuver is not successful, they can still create corner kicks well on the sidelines. Whether active or passive, they can use the advantage of high forwards to grab points in the penalty area when launching corner kicks, and the tactics are very obvious. In his youth training at Arsenal, he had no advantage, his strength was not good, and his speed was equally average. After 2 years, he completely sat on the water dispenser. At the age of 20, he couldn't even make it to the U21 league as a substitute. Later, at the age of 22, he went to play as a substitute in the English League One. Years later, due to some reasons, his overseas career came to an end. After returning to China, he could only play for an unknown small team in his own city, with a wealth of experience. At this moment, a fire was burning inside him. He didn't know why, anyway, a fire made him feel that his strength was increasing, and as the intensity of the exercise increased, the fire became even more intense. Beep. The corner kick was transferred into the penalty area by the opponent in a perfect arc. Zhou Yang was sweating as he looked at the landing position of the corner kick, his heart pounding. He had nothing else in his previous life, but his 8-year football career had a sharper perception compared to these children who had played for several years. He immediately knew that the ball was very dangerous when it landed because the gap next to him was too large. Admittedly, this defensive gap was not related to him, but he still couldn't ignore it. At the moment, he was preparing to retract a distance. However, at this moment, a Leeds United midfielder next to him also took a step back, and his right elbow suddenly caught his position. The other party took the lead in the position, and this gap was too deadly. In a blink of an eye, the football suddenly landed beside him. The Leeds United player behind him had his head jumping and pushed it over his shoulder, then slammed it as it fell. The football whizzed into the net. 38 minutes, the score is 1-0. Zhou, what are you doing? Why don't you jump? The centre-back Oaks beside him looked angrily. Oh my God, how could there be such a useless person? Why doesn't he jump? AUX, take a good look at your position. Don't worry if you can't move your feet. If you lose your eyes again, you'll have to throw a bowling ball. Zhou Yang glanced at him, and AUX always targeted himself. What do you mean? Centre-back Oaks was furious. He once threw a bowling ball and hit the other side, hitting someone else's wooden post. Others said he lost his eye. Oak, he's stuck. Charlie ran up and pushed Oak hard. The defensive position just now belongs to you. Run for me, you bastard. Several forwards from Leeds United rushed together to embrace, while other Leeds United players also ran up to celebrate. There were only 7 minutes left in the first half, including a maximum of 2 minutes in stoppage time. Leeds United's corner kick was clearly well prepared, and the placement and personnel tactical arrangements were very clever. Normally, their 4,231 here has stronger midfield control than the opponent, but it has not had such an effect. Zhou Yang knows that their midfield problems are significant. Leeds United is already stronger than the young players like Arsenal in terms of overall strength, so most of the time they are facing pressure from the front. There is a lot of pressure from their rear personnel, and from the beginning, Zhou Yang and his team were compressed back into their own half. In theory, there is a chance to maintain it until the second half, but Leeds United's high pressure in the second half may result in insufficient physical fitness. Unfortunately, we conceded a goal at half-time. The opponent's intention was obvious, coupled with a goal, it was even more imposing. In the remaining 8 minutes, Leeds United played more and more fiercely on both flanks, and with 4 midfielders directly pressing outside the penalty area to cooperate, they once compressed all Arsenal's young players within the penalty area, causing fear in front of the goal several times. Zhou Yang, as a full-back, has wanted to get the ball and charge straight up several times. He felt that his physical ability was not a big problem for these children. He just thought about it and realized that there were opportunities, but the consequences of not obeying tactical organization arrangements were also very serious. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it to the next substitute list. Well, both the benefits and risks are there, let alone the second half. In the first half, we still have to obey the coach's tactical arrangements. In the last minute of stoppage time, Arsenal finally had a good defensive counterattack. The opponent's high ball was thrown into the penalty area, and a player held the ball against their head and kicked it outside the penalty area. Their forward Toma quickly inserted it, and Zhou Yang stood on the curved side, without saying a word, widening the distance towards the sideline. Arsenal forward Toma had no idea who was on the sideline, only seeing a large gap in the opponent's half, a shadow on the left side, and a straight pass on the spot. Zhou Yang easily pulled the ball with his right foot and continued to dribble. In the current situation, not only is he cursing, but all the staff will also curse him when passing back. After checking the make-up time, there is still about half a minute left. While Zhou Yang quickly dribbled the ball with a straight pass, the opponent's midfield and defenders had formed a defensive formation, but the positioning had not yet fully appeared. The main issue was that several of the opponent's midfielders had been involved in the attack, and their physical fitness had slightly declined. However, Zhou Yang's physical strength was explosive, coupled with his perfect running, and a few positions separated him from them. Arsenal striker Toma was stunned for a moment, speaking slowly and quickly. As a forward, his super keen sensitivity sensed the opportunity. Among the opponent's 4 defenders, another full-back was thrown away by Zhou Yang with speed. Front court, 2 against 3. Arsenal striker Toma was shocked. His feet ran like a small train. Front court, real 2-on-3, chance. At around 10,000 words, when the protagonist's weight increases to 150 pounds, there will be an adversarial constitution with a core of 200 pounds. Non-systematic, the protagonist's constitution is special, and various qualitative and quantitative changes will gradually appear. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Wenger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Wenger Coney Training Base. Arsene Wenger, standing not far from the stadium, with several teaching assistants standing behind him. At first, they were chatting with each other about something, as if discussing the training base. However, they didn't pay any attention to the 2 young players playing at the other stadium next to them, only occasionally glancing at them. Wenger is wearing a set of coats today, Arsenal's coat, sewn with Arsenal icons. His zipper opened a bit, I don't know if it's a bit cold, but the old man slightly lifted the zipper. Successfully pulled up the zipper. Boulder, I think we need to follow up on the issue you are considering today. The facilities at our training base this year should be replaced. In terms of funding, I have thought about it and there is no need to rush. Let someone follow up first to see what needs to be replaced. Boulder is well aware of Wenger's requirements for football stadiums, and the Coney training ground remains one of the highest football training bases in Europe, with a total of 11 standard stadiums built to the standards of the Chieftain's turf, as well as various fitness and medical facilities. However, our funds are limited, so we should try our best to do what should be done and what must be done. Wenger's gaze fell on the pitch after pitch, and there were some things that needed to be changed at the Coney training base. His gaze was filled with some worry, as if he had thought of something again. I know, you actually thought about renovating it before, right? Boulder smiled. Wenger remained silent and stepped on the grass. Perhaps, what is he thinking? He turned his gaze to the nearby training ground and glanced casually. Just as he was about to retract his gaze, he was somewhat surprised. He usually watches games between the reserve and youth teams at various levels, but he didn't show much interest in the game just now. As an Arsenal coach, this group of young and very young players have already understood and do not have particularly outstanding personnel, so they still need to continue to wait for their progress. Until now, a full-back caught his attention. It's not that this defender's ability is outstanding, on the contrary, what Wenger sees is the calm and old-fashioned style he shows in defense. If Leeds United's young players are oppressed, and other players here are slightly panicked, then he is the best performer among these defensive players. Their midfield panic has given Leeds United plenty of space, as it seems there have been some problems due to conceding goals and high pressure. The pressure from the rear is starting to increase, and this group of young players find it difficult to maintain composure in the face of conceding goals and continuing high pressure. Moreover, the head coach of their team is watching from the side, and the mentality of young players needs to be gradually honed through experience. A person cannot change the whole, but at least he has done enough defense and offensive response that he should do. Wenger saw through the fence of the field that the player was organizing some defense in the back, cautious and subtle. Several times, he was able to detect problems in advance, quickly return to defense, and destroy threatening attacks. The speed is also very fast and flexible. Wenger gave this evaluation. He loves collecting young guys, but he has his own unique vision. A growth-oriented player needs stability. The think tank behind them also looked at the situation on the field, which surprised everyone even more. Leeds United's attacking corner kick was disrupted. Toma caught the ball. And this was not enough to shock them. What surprised them was that a young defender, upon discovering that the opponent's club had landed at the feet of his forward Toma, had already pulled himself apart and ran towards the sidelines. And Thomas also noticed this shadow and passed the ball to the person who inserted it forward. The 42-31 formation usually involves several fulcrums cooperating with a forward for attack. If this gun cannot be quickly and effectively penetrated, the attacking force immediately will be very limited because there is only one forward. Not to mention, Arsenal's midfield is a bit chaotic and they can't even afford such a defensive counterattack. Until now, someone suddenly started. The young man received the ball, widened the distance, dribbled, and Leeds United's midfield behind him had no time to react. The opponent had already inserted it. Zhou Yang continued to dribble, surpassing one full back. Continue dribbling. The front court has changed to 2 against 3. But it's not easy to handle. Toma started slowly. Maybe I didn't expect this child to be able to insert so smoothly and easily bring the ball to the front of the penalty area. Someone behind me said, and in a few seconds, the changes on the field were so rapid. Zhou Yang saw that Toma behind him couldn't come up to pick him up, as if he was surprised. Immediately, calmly, he made a gentle pass to the side and brought the ball to the edge of the penalty area. Wenger's eyes lit up. 2 centre-backs are charging towards the edge of the penalty area. The simplest way at this moment is to destroy Zhou Yang's ball. In about 2 or 3 seconds, Toma unleashed his momentum and rushed over like a wild bull, with a full back in front of him. Just as everyone was wondering if Zhou Yang would swing his foot directly, he made a quite surprising move. Turn around with the ball and make a pick pass with the right foot. The ball passes over the heads of 2 centre-backs and goes to Toma in the penalty area. Toma easily paddled the ball down with his head. Zhou Yang reinserts into the left side of the penalty area. In the penalty area, after receiving the ball, Zhou Yang lightly kicked the ball with his right foot and it went straight to the far corner. The arc is like a full moon, hanging a small curved knife. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Changing to hitting the front waist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Changing to hitting the front waist, the ball effortlessly dribbled into the net. This ball is here. Arsenal youth team equalized the score 1.1. Everyone was shocked, too fast, in just a short while. It's just a blink of an eye between inserting before the start and forming 2-3. The other players on Arsenal's side are still in a daze. Zhou Yang teamed up with Toma to score the goal. Leeds United's defender has not yet reacted, the ball has already been dribbled into the net. Even the goalkeeper couldn't stop in time. Even the other Leeds United players who are preparing to withdraw are too late. The score came to 1.1, and the whistle blew in the first half, waking everyone up. Toma was overjoyed and gave Zhou Yang a high five. Just now, the opponent came over and quickly inserted into the penalty area. He knew what the opponent meant. Zhou, you're really amazing. I really admire your way of thinking." Toma gave a thumbs up. He is a Scottish big guy with short hair and chestnut color, and is the only forward in Arsenal U17 who can charge forward. In U17, except for Thomas who is Scottish, everyone else is native to England. "You're also great, Toma," Zhou Yang followed with a thumbs up. Toma felt a moment of embarrassment. He didn't know much about Zhou Yang before, but only knew that it was a Chinese company cooperating with Arsenal that allowed Zhou Yang to enter the Corney training base. At the training base, he didn't think Zhou Yang was any strong. His physical condition and speed were not good, so he could only pass the ball from the back and not necessarily pass any good balls. This was his first game, and he didn't expect to train better than usual. Is it really that kind of player? He has heard of players like him who don't train very well on a regular basis, but they play very well in matches. Is Zhou this type of person? Humph, it's just dog poop luck. Ox pouted, his golden hair clean, and his handsome face clean. Perhaps his sweat had evaporated. If you didn't just receive the ball headed by Toma, could you score? Jamie Toma frowned, his face full of displeasure. Ox, this has nothing to do with luck. You need to understand how many details need to be dealt with during this time. This is a very difficult thing, and a successful cooperation can determine the life and death of the game. Oaks pursed his lips and looked disdainful. "I could have done it. Next time, I hope we can cooperate and give it a try during training," said Oaks, a local idiot who always looks down on people from outside and really wants to beat him up. "Zhou, let's go back. We have 15 minutes rest time." A group of people walked towards the nearby lounge, and the Coney training base had a huge floor area with all the necessary facilities in perfect condition. Their coach is Geru, the head coach of Arsenal's U17 team. He is a man in his 30s, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, and was trained by Arsenal's youth team. Later, he played in other leagues and soon became a coach in the English second division. He soon returned to Arsenal's training base. He explained the tactical arrangements for the second half in the lounge, and most of the points that need to be noted are similar, with the only significant change. Zhou Yang changed to a front waist of 4,231. "Zhou, you go play in the midfield," the guy whispered quietly. "You've seen the situation on the field before. Leeds United's high pressure makes it impossible for me to cooperate with Tomas." Through the cooperation between Zhou Yang and Toma in the first half, it can be seen that both sides can form a reaction. 4,231's midfield is almost a sole figure, not only to organize offensive passes and coordinate with single forwards, but most importantly, to have scoring ability. Anyway, the advantage of 4,231 lies in its integration of attack and defense, with sufficient troops deployed in the midfield for forward and backward coordination, making it easy to switch between various formations. Of course, the disadvantage is also significant. When launching an attack, if the opponent's midfield is better, it would be troublesome. Because the winger almost plays the role of a winger in midfield attacks, the defensive pressure on the winger will suddenly increase. Having to face the impact from the opponent's flying wings alone, as long as the opponent's midfield wings are pressed up, just like Leeds United before, it will generate great pressure and can only be recovered. The result is that the midfield is completely destroyed, the backcourt is filled with gunpowder, and the frontcourt players cannot tear it apart. It is obvious that this switch is aimed at changing this situation. Zhou Yang knows the meaning of jialu. While defending, find opportunities to penetrate Leeds United's midfield and don't let the opponent's wings hold you back. He inexplicably felt a huge burden. Zhou Yang, jialu suddenly walked over, pondered for a moment, and said, "Play well." Zhou Yang felt even heavier. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Control of midfield. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Control of midfield. In the second half, EP1-10 fought again. A shelter on the field, with Arsene Wenger and Boulder sitting on the sidelines. Several assistants next to him knew that Wenger seemed to be curious about the young man in this game. Geru asked him to play in Digai's midfield position. I don't know who said. Wenger nodded as if he already knew. The others behind them glanced at each other, and they roughly understood that perhaps this was what Arsena meant. You should have noticed that Leeds United has a strong attack on both wings, but in fact, the only one that played relatively smoothly in the first half was on the right side. However, there was this kid playing defense on this road at the time, and he did very well. Wenger sat on his chair, looking at the information in front of him, and his eyes fell on the field with contemplation. Now that Digai has moved to his position, if his ability as a full-back is not as good as this child, it will only be more difficult for him to continue being compressed from the sidelines than in the first half, someone pointed out. Perhaps. Wenger still nodded. But we missed out on one question: what if he starts attacking in the midfield? This is something Digai cannot do. At this moment, Leeds United coach Soriconia also has a strange expression. A middle-aged man in a grey suit, with a slightly bloated figure, his belt couldn't hold his bulging belly, giving him a feeling of looseness, like Uncle Sam. He saw the changes in Arsenal's midfield here. In the first half, there were two flanks, and the most powerful one was always unable to successfully score because of that child's defensive experience and speed. Whether it was a detailed marking or a small action foul, they could easily interrupt their attacking rhythm in the following minutes. He is aware of the importance of this child in the defensive line. Put this child on the front waist, Sor frowned. I seem to know their thoughts now. Judging from the child's ability demonstrated in the first half, he had both offense and defense, and Geru wanted to use him to attack. The child's handling during the attack was indeed good. After pondering for a moment, I instinctively touched the stubble on my chin. The idea of the opponent scoring in the first half is undoubtedly very mature among the children, but it is because of maturity that Sor finds it difficult to appear. A change of position made several coaches understand some things. They often do this, for example, suddenly feeling that a defensive defender can play offense and will propose changes. Of course, when children are young, the opportunities and directions for change will be more spacious, and as they age, the space for change will become less and less once they are finalized. It depends on whether you can give a surprise. After all, this child has sudden explosive power, and running without a ball is also excellent. No, this kid has another characteristic: he steals from the sidelines and controls the ball. Sor looked at the Chinese kid sitting in the middle, his heart pounding and his eyes flashing with excitement. That's the key. He turned his gaze to the outside of the field, and the team of the old man from Arsena was also present. In that case, this attempt would be very meaningful. On the field, the game began, and in the second half, both sides exchanged positions and began to enter the rhythm. Leeds United kicked off. According to their attack plan, they cut in from the sidelines, and in most cases, the ball will be destroyed by Arsenal. If it is an out-of-bounds ball at this time, they will go towards the bottom line and seek corner kicks. Of course, if the bottom line is directly broken, it is also possible to take a corner kick directly. Take a corner kick on the sidelines and then find a way to score. It would be better if it could penetrate. It's really not possible to give the big guy a try by swinging towards the penalty area on both sides, but it's just causing various troubles in Arsenal's penalty area. And the opponent's midfield control is not as good as theirs, which is a bit panicked, so they can suddenly take the ball and get the ball. At the beginning, he still maintained high pressure, and in the first few minutes, he still played well. For a few minutes, the rhythm seemed to still be in their hands. This child hasn't changed much either. If it's a good thing, it's his defense in the middle. The child who was placed in front of him couldn't make the defense on the wings better, and we still focus on the wings. So far, this kind of substitution still has little significance unless he. Sor saw that the child's speed seemed to be starting to improve. However, compared to the increase in speed, what surprised him even more was that the child began to intentionally or unintentionally increase his defense on the sidelines. Sor nodded secretly. He seems to have adapted and knows that our big guy finds it difficult to break through those two midfielders and two centre-backs. The fact is that their team is excellent on both sides, using midfield to slow down and repeatedly play on the wings, aiming to play on both sides of Arsenal. However, the centre-forward is in a different situation. In order to arrange corner kick tactics successfully, they gave up agile technical players and breakthrough players, and instead let powerful and large players catch up in the penalty area, looking for scoring opportunities, so the intensity of the centre line is naturally not high. It's understandable to know that Arsenal's youth team's defensive midfield and two centre-backs are indeed sufficient. After all, Leeds United's ability to break through the centre is not strong, and they rely solely on the wings to advance. However, the two wings come and go, and he is easily weak when pulled to run like this, unless during Sor's contemplation, a change appeared on the field again. He burst into a bitter smile. Here we go again. I saw their shooting point on the sideline suddenly intercepted by a child from the midline. His defensive experience is very sharp, which is no longer comparable to children of these ages. This has nothing to do with the body. When he noticed the opponent was preparing to play, he already had his defensive thoughts. If he succeeded at this time, he either destroyed the ball or intercepted it. In the first half, Leeds United suffered several losses on the sidelines, but in the first half, he did not organize the attack. With a touch of the right foot, the ball rolled a few times towards the center, and in an instant, both sides were ready to charge up and take possession of the ball. But it has already been steadily stepped on by that child. Just when everyone thought Arsenal was rushing to start attacking, he didn't start the attack. He chose to control the ball first and gently pushed it to Thomas. Thomas saw the football he had kicked back and was about to attack when he suddenly noticed Zhou pointing towards the other side. Thomas quickly knocked the ball back to the other winger. At the same time, their formation was pulled apart according to normal conditions, 42-31, officially pulled apart. They also had the opportunity to play like this in the first half before, but the problem was that Guy couldn't pick up and coordinate when he was there. Zhou Yang slowly ran back to his position, the winger received the ball and gave it to the full-back. In an instant, the entire Leeds United young man was caught in the midfield and then returned to Zhou Yang's hands. Without hesitation, Zhou Yang pushed the ball to his side's winger Shanai, once again following the formation to pull the distance. Xu Naiyi looked at the pass calmly, and it was even more comfortable to catch it. Zhou Yang has played in the third level at least, and there are countless formal matches of all sizes. A friendly match in his teens is not enough to make him nervous. The most important thing for Arsenal's children in the past was nervousness, attacking during midfield advancement, which could lead to errors in judgment, crooked kicks, being intercepted, and other issues. Leeds United cannot win, continue to back down. The formation unconsciously controlled the rhythm while passing the ball, and Arsenal began to cross the middle circle. The midfield of Arsenal's youth team has stabilized. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. A long-range shot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. A long-range shot. When this child plays as a full-back, he is good at breaking the ball and stealing, and he has very stable control of the ball, very calm. The most important thing is that his speed suddenly increased significantly, leading to interception and steals, which is very headache-inducing. As a midfielder, what Zhou Yang needs to do is to plan the attack. But instigating an attack does not mean blindly rushing. After I started running, the more routes I ran, the faster I could feel my starting speed. In addition, my acceleration also changes. Running without interruption can generate stronger explosive power and speed improvement. I seem to have a general understanding. If I had a starting speed of 5 and an acceleration of at 1/2, which is 5 + 1/2 then now the more total routes I run within a certain period of time, the faster my starting speed will be. If this starting speed is set to be, it may be 6, 7, or 8. I have been running on two sides of the road for so many distances, and the clearest thing is that the starting speed is getting faster and faster. At the same time, my acceleration has changed due to the running distance during this period, not 1/2, but almost close to the entire at. That is to say, the more I run during this period, the faster my speed formula is B+ at, which is greater than 5. As the running distance increases, my starting speed B will increase, and at the same time, the acceleration will increase from 1/2 at to at, which is proportional. Besides that, it's physical fitness. During my running time, I feel more and more energized. Countless thoughts flashed through Zhou Yang's mind, while at the same time, Arsenal's propulsion control underwent a steady change, and the football once again pushed in front of him. Zhou Yang started. He has something to try. His initiation naturally tightened the strings of the two teams. Undoubtedly, Arsenal's midfield have unconsciously advanced, and Leeds' defense line is very dense. As soon as Zhou Yang started, someone immediately came up to press and grab. At this moment, it seems that no one dares to underestimate this Chinese Arsenal Youth Academy, who orchestrated an extremely excellent attack in the first half. He suddenly looked like a fierce tiger descending from the mountain. The whole body is filled with a dangerous aura. He dribbled a few times and continued to accelerate. Restart B+ at. Other Arsenal players are pressing on the front line, marking and running, all noticing something. Leeds United's two centre-backs and goalkeepers were quickly secured, especially the goalkeeper with a solemn expression. Ahead, the fiercely launched Chinese made the Leeds United goalkeeper instinctively feel like a closely watched prey. That feeling made him shudder, as if something bad was about to happen. Perhaps we should admit our ignorance, his abilities far exceed our imagination, he said in his mind. Leeds United quickly defended their midfield, and Zhou Yang was lightning fast, scoring a single goal and eating the young player raw. The latter stood still in place. In an instant, the wind and clouds moved. It may seem like a long time, but in reality, it only led their midfield. Soar stared intently into the field. In the distance, Arsène Wenger held his hands and placed them under his chin, his kind eyes unblinking at the moment. Thomas followed up, feeling anxious. According to the current situation, even if he caught Zhou Yang's ball, it would be difficult for him to penetrate the crowd. Zhou Yang dribbled the ball to the arc of the penalty area, facing the opponent's defender and the surrounding defense. He began to slow down, lowered his body, and looked up at the goal. My body suddenly froze like a fierce tiger. In the curved area, Zhou Yang felt that the explosive power and strength had reached a sufficient level. It seems that everyone has felt something. B+ at, suitable for strength. Soar finally shook his eyelids. Zhou Yang's body pressed down, his right foot lifted, and the goal was in his two pupils, as if it was close in front of him. Adjust the angle and hit him with the back of your foot. Soar's face changed, he wants to shoot from a distance. Boom. The ball carries tremendous power, crosses the curve, passes through the defender, and does not diminish its momentum. In that moment, the entire stadium was attracted by that shell. The goalkeeper only feels like a gust of wind has brushed against his ear. The ball in the goal net bounced back suddenly. All Leeds United players were stunned. The goalkeeper sat on the ground with almost no chance of performance, his face full of confusion at this moment. This ball is here again. Rewrite the score, 2.1, Arsenal youth team has another city. Not long after the opening, Leeds United swallowed another one. Shit. The opposing goalkeeper shouted angrily at the midfield, what? Are you idiots? Let him bring him over and shoot. The midfielder looked innocent, why didn't you say that the defender didn't block the ball and didn't see him shake me off? Your mother. Their central defense is already easy to tear apart, with a large block of the head in front. Once the midfield is passed, they will face the back defense directly. So, what do you think of when they play long-range shots? Zhou Yang touched his chin. In his previous life, he mainly had rich experience on the field, especially in defense. In addition, his biggest advantage was his overall perspective, and these are very valuable things. But his attack is a weak point. That's all for now. Not bad, Zhou. Oh my goodness, your kick is so perfect. Others ran over to celebrate with joy, being suppressed by Leeds United for so long, finally turning them around. With this shot, those guys were all stunned. Let these guys who look down on us outsiders see what a real shot is. Thomas sighed for a moment, he had never seen such explosive power and speed at their age. This kid is usually trained to be cautious, as his speed and strength are both terrifying. Your kick is enough to make them understand one thing, which is that we have excellent attacking ability in the middle. The team members at Leeds United looked at Zhou Yang differently on the field. On the field, Soares' face was complex, indicating a change of person. Leeds United's winger, he replaced the stronger winger midfielder, and he could see that his physical fitness was significantly lacking. And the new person also has the ability to assist in midfield defense. I have to admit that Arsenal's child is very outstanding. Oh, Arsena, you're really in good spirits today. He saw Arsene Wenger and followed in. Arsena let out a quack of laughter. Yeah, you're the same. Your guys are all great. I think your young man is even better, don't you think? Soares smiled. The elderly seemed to be even happier. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Attack. The team members of Leeds United have different perspectives on this Chinese national. But without exception, they all brought shock. More of it is silence. If we talk about the first ball, hitting it with coordination and then shooting it in the penalty area, it's just a product of coordination, and there's a bit of dissatisfaction and luck, thinking they can do it themselves. So now he's shooting alone, with the front of the penalty area perfectly positioned in the back line, which is a reflection of his own ability. And it's a stroke of genius. Who can achieve such precise detonation? But there is still time to equalize. What's different is that from the initial disdain, they have now deeply realized the focus of the team in front of them. It is precisely what they initially mocked, the Chinese people. It is ridiculous that they are now ready to devote all their energy to this young man from China. Even the coach's substitutions were adjustments made to the steals and attacks of the Chinese, strengthening midfield defense. Undoubtedly, at this moment and here, tactics have unconsciously been deployed around this midfielder's midfielder. The next moment, Arsenal's move further confirmed this situation. Arsenal made a substitution adjustment, and Oakes was replaced with a Belgian defender. Oakes was still very dissatisfied, but when he saw the old man standing by the sidelines, he didn't even dare to open his mouth. He also wants to get a professional contract from Arsenal. Every year, a few people get it in the youth training, and even if he goes to the U21 league, there is still a chance to play in the first line in the future. The centre-back that was replaced often makes back passes, Soares pondered. If it were him, the person who was replaced would definitely have a better overall perspective and forward pressure ability, ensuring that the attacking rhythm of that Chinese player does not stop. So, he is very certain that the Belgian defender who came on the field must have these attributes in his abilities. Zhou, I suddenly realized that your ability is actually very suitable for midfield, the guy exhaled. No. Toma added, you should say he's a natural midfielder. Thank you, we are all on the road of hard work. Returning to the center circle, Zhou Yang also saw the old man, Arsenal's coach, and the soul of Emirates Stadium, Arsene Wenger. The next new season is almost Arsenal's best chance to win the championship, as there is only one opponent. Fox City. The other major powerhouses each have very serious problems. Chelsea from peak to bottom, Van Cleef and Manchester United are in a mess, Blue Moon has various injuries, Liverpool. Liverpool doesn't need to mention it next year. Mid-circle, serve. Leeds United, who conceded the ball, is now ready to make a comeback. They changed their midfield and are ready to continue instigating attacks from the sidelines. On Arsenal's side, due to breaking through Leeds United's goal, the players are full of fighting spirit and energy, and with a few substitutions and adjustments, they are instantly different. After the replacement of the centre-back, the new U17 young man from Belgium has a very strong overall perspective and a better vision than Oaks. In an instant, without realizing it, the attack with Zhou Yang and Toma as the center line, controlled by passing and receiving on both sides, started unconsciously. Once given the opportunity, the front four of 4,231, under the close proximity of their lower back, almost thrust like sharp knives. Attack and launch a complete attack. At this moment, without realizing it, even outside the field, there are already other tier players and trainers. Arsene Wenger and Leeds United coaching staff each have their own appearances. Arsenal's smooth midfield control and co-defense on both sides. Leeds United has a clear strategy of pressing in on the sidelines and grabbing points in the middle, illuminating the entire Coney training base in a round trip. Gradually, including the leaders of each team, other team members were called over to watch. The impact of Leeds United's flanks continues. Even once, their tall centre forward had a very good shooting opportunity outside the penalty area. However, he kicked crooked. As for Arsenal, as the opponent's defense in the centre and back increased, he began to be restricted from receiving the ball. After receiving the ball, the opponent made dumplings directly, and had no choice but to knock back. However, this also gives them more space on both sides, making infiltration easier. The flank is like a tide, and Zhou Yang's presence has completely liberated Arsenal's wings. Unfortunately, there were still 2 legs left to succeed, and the best one was when a few people intervened and almost had a chance to shoot in front of the opposing goalkeeper. Destroyed by the opposing defender. But without a doubt, their flanks can also create chaos for Leeds United. Passing, tapping horizontally, Arsenal's midfielder, starting at the speed of receiving the ball on the 29th, the defenders closely follow him, and Leeds also assists in defense from the sidelines. After receiving the ball with his back, he turned around and started on the sidelines. Then, his 29th was fouled. The other party pulled and tugged at his clothes while they were on the defensive side. Zhou Yang rolled his entire body forward a few times, sat on the ground, and exhaled a breath. They found a tactic, which is to foul themselves if they don't defend well when receiving the ball. The rest of Arsenal's youth ignited their anger and went up to argue with Leeds United. The smell of gunpowder is strong. Yellow card, youth-friendly match. The referee at the training base is very serious at this moment. He clearly saw that the current situation of the competition is different, with more and more players from various teams outside, as well as some personnel coming to the training base to handle affairs. The referee instantly gave a yellow card to Leeds United players and gave them a warning. The opponent had already made several small moves to defend Zhou Yang before, and this time they even pushed and pulled Zhou Yang. In the distance, several Arsenal players from the first team looked solemnly. "Who is that child?" Casella stared at the boy. "I don't know." Giroud shook his head back and forth. Sanchez rolled up his pants on his thighs. They brought their own benches and sat watching the game. Zhou Yang stood up again from the ground and signaled to his teammates that there was no problem. The second free kick in the second half was taken directly, but it was too far away. There was a free kick from the sidelines and front court before, which was created by a foul on Toma's cross. The position was good, but he took a direct shot and kicked it away. Now it's the second one. Zhou Yang and Toma both stood next to the ball. Waiting for the referee to whistle, the players almost all lined up at an angle in front of the penalty area. Although it was a free kick made by oneself, the task of shooting a free kick itself was carried out by Toma. "Shooting?" Thomas subconsciously asked Zhou Yang. Unconsciously, he had already prioritized Zhou Yang's choice. Shooting from this angle is not that easy. Zhou Yang shrugged his shoulders, actually feeling that he could shoot and cross. Quickly, the referee blew the whistle. The big guy Toma accelerated and ran, pressing down and shooting directly with his left foot. The ball fell into the penalty area and was ejected. Near the sideline, Leeds United's left back grabbed the ball and kicked it straight in. After dribbling forward, everyone followed the formation and retreated. Arsenal's defense was timely, and someone stepped over and kicked it away. The ball flew back into the midfield in the blink of an eye, and Zhou Yang rushed up to get the ball. Leeds United's midfield was once again surrounded by two people to defend him. Zhou Yang had no choice but to pass with his back to the Belgian centre-back. The Belgian centre-back aimed at the opportunity and took the opportunity to pass to the wide gap on the left side. Leeds United watched helplessly as the ball flew into the left gap of Arsenal's midfield. Shanai, who was running, hit the ball with his head and pushed it forward with the ball. On the other hand, Arsenal's flank attack. Toma, the right winger, and Zhou Yang immediately swarmed towards the penalty area. Arsenal inside and outside the penalty area, 3 points in front and back. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. You go to U21 for transition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. You go to U21 for transition. Shanai dribbles horizontally and cuts in. Leeds United's penalty area is packed with people. A horizontal pass in the middle. The ball landed over the penalty area. Opportunity. Zhou Yang instinctively headed a small ferry, and the ball hit his shoulder and landed. In the small penalty area, Toma inserted a stabbing shot in front of him and followed the ball into the Leeds United goal. This ball is here again. 3.1 Under the attack of both sides, Arsenal's flank was completely liberated, and a cross was pushed into the penalty area from the left side gap to steal the goal. Arsenal's next city. Passing from the sidelines, Zhou Yang dribbled the ball from behind, and Toma scored with a steal. Defensive counterattack coordination, long-range scoring, penalty area grabbing, 3 scoring methods. Unlike Leeds United and others who were disheartened, Arsenal's momentum instantly surged. Toma let out a roar. Zhou Yang also clenched his fist with force. He had rich experience playing football in his previous life and was very clear about what was most important in playing football, which was to seize opportunities. If there is a chance, you don't have to score on your own. If your teammates have a better chance, find a way to give it to them. Of course, it was just a coincidence that he couldn't make it himself. Undoubtedly, Leeds United restricted Zhou Yang's catch, his advance, and increased the number of defenders, resulting in a widening gap on both sides, giving Arsenal an excellent opportunity to attack from the sidelines. Shuyina, Digai, Belgian guys, and so on all came over to celebrate. Before this game started, I never thought they could play for this Leeds United youth team. They have several players who have already received professional contracts, how can they play? In the first half, there was a clear gap and they were overwhelmed, so they didn't have much chance on the sidelines. Until now, it was only after Zhou Yang attracted defense that Arsenal's wings were completely liberated. In addition, they also have the threat of advancing in the middle. Zhou, thank you for your assist. Toma walked over and was very grateful. This training match had high expectations for him as a key player, but unfortunately he always felt that his performance was not perfect. It was Zhou Yang who gave him the opportunity to pass and shoot. You also assisted me. Zhou Yang squatted down and patted his thigh. You came and went, and the assist was equally wonderful. Sorry, I on the sidelines sighed uncontrollably. If we don't increase our troops, we'll keep an eye on this kid. There's a chance he'll pierce through the midline again. But increasing the strength to defend this kid and helping the midfield to assist in defense was not timely on the sidelines, and Arsenal's attacks on both sides continued to flow. The sidelines fluctuated and the midfield was not as strong as they could. If only I had a front court that could run, but my ability to defend on the flanks was not enough. The attacking on the flanks was greatly restricted, and the fulcrum in the middle became weaker. Sore sighed in his heart. Their Leeds United players themselves have stronger overall abilities than Arsenal's children, and defense is not a strong point. It's just that he didn't think this child could persist in collaborative defense and breakthrough for so long before, so he prepared to take small precautions and let the child's physical strength continue to charge on the sidelines. I didn't expect that the opponent's physical fitness didn't decrease much, so they conceded another goal. It's so excellent that it makes people envious. I knew I would drink beer at home. The time runs until 65 minutes. At this moment, Zhou Yang walked a few turns on the field and seemed to have some problems. Toma just realized that Zhou Yang's thigh was swollen. Is it okay, Zhou? Zhou Yang was able to feed him, which naturally moved him. Fortunately, it's a bit swollen, maybe it was due to a foul and falling just now. Zhou Yang frowned. Toma ran to the sidelines and talked to the coach. Coach Geru from the youth team signaled for a replacement. Zhou Yang cannot be damaged now and is a key figure. Child, go down and rest, you're great. Jielu patted Zhou Yang's shoulder. My usual training performance is average, but I didn't expect to be so calm and creative in the competition. Many well-trained team members end up in a mess during the game. For example, when training 1-on-1 with Ox, it's okay, but why is it so docile during matches? If I had known that the U18 Youth League had brought this Chinese child, I wouldn't have been so oppressed in U18. After high fives with a few teammates, Zhou Yang slowly walked off the field. With a bang 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 bang. I didn't expect that one day, I would also enjoy such support, Zhou Yang sighed inexplicably in his heart. Speaking of which, Zhou Yang's ability to play at Arsenal was purely accidental. He comes from a city in southern China and has been playing football since childhood. After completing compulsory education, he was spotted by a large company on the field and promised to be sent to Arsenal for youth training. Later, upon inquiry, it was found that this football agency indeed has this ability, with a solid background and genuine value. The requirement is that in the future, when Zhou Yang signs a professional contract with the Arsenal team, he must provide a training fund to the cooperating company. There are other children in his group, including Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur in London. Through this method, after they obtain a professional contract, the company earns a training fund, and they have a career in football. It's been 2 years in the blink of an eye. Time flies so fast. Chinese people who study and play football while going abroad need to adapt to their clothing, food, housing, and transportation, and learn customs, which is not easy. Not to mention, gaining recognition from our blonde and blue-eyed older brothers. Today, he did it. Returning to the youth lounge, I took a piece of ice from the freezer and gave it to the swollen area for swelling reduction. Getting injured while playing football is a common occurrence. I usually bump, especially in real competitions. How does it feel like I've lost a lot? Is my body that good? Zhou Yang was puzzled for a moment, feeling that the redness and swelling on his feet had subsided significantly. Remember, it was quite swollen just now. Do you need medical personnel to come and take a look? Suddenly, a voice came. Zhou Yang was taken aback and quickly put his foot down from the table. Hello, Arsene Wenger. Wenger smiled as he walked into the lounge, still elegant as ever. I know, respected Mr. Arsene. Zhou Yang quickly wiped his hands and shook hands with the other person, only to find that his hands were covered in ice water, and the old man seemed to be shivering from the ice. After Arsene Wenger withdrew his hand, he sat down. "Young man, I just saw your game. I noticed that after Mr. Arsena appeared, we played even better." Zhou Yang hesitated for a moment, then sat down and continued to press with ice. Arsene Wenger smiled dumbfounded. "You play very well." Zhou Yang smiled. "Thank you. It was my teammates' excellence and the coach's arrangement that opened up the situation for us." Arsene Wenger laughed even deeper. "This child has excellent emotional intelligence. The winter in Hertfordshire is filled with coldness," and the old man put his hands in his pockets and opened his thermos to take a sip of water. "The first time I saw you playing football, I felt like you had an ancient soul hidden in your body, constantly urging you to judge your behavior and thoughts. Do I look like an old turtle?" Zhou Yang smiled. "You're like a crocodile turtle suddenly reaching out and biting," Wenger said without hesitation. "Do you want to play football at the Emirates Stadium?" He smiled gently. Zhou Yang knows what Wenger means, so he should be signing a professional contract with him and starting his daily training. "Is there only a chieftain?" Zhou Yang asked. Wenger was momentarily stunned and didn't react for a moment. "Camp Nou, Dream Theatre, Allianz, Bernabeu, Stanford, San Siro, West, I all want to conquer," Zhou Yang said, looking up and speaking in a hesitant tone. Wenger was momentarily stunned. "Years later, I realized that this was not a joke. It's possible. As long as you want, you can step on any green field. Stepping and conquering are naturally vastly different, and when you think about yourself, you would never have said such a thing before." Wenger continued, "Child, I want you to adapt to U21 first. The English Premier League U21 and U18 youth leagues are both great opportunities for young players to showcase themselves, especially the latter. If they perform well in the U18 league, they will give their children a real professional contract." In his previous life, Zhou Yang signed a professional contract at the age of 19 and worked as a water dispenser at U21. It wasn't until he moved to the third-tier English League One that he had more opportunities to play, which can be described as a bitter tear. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Arsenal Youth Training and Tottenham Young Boys. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Arsenal Youth Training and Tottenham Young Boys. Going to U21 is a transition, and after the new season next year, I can go to the Premier League and play in European competitions. However, it is also possible that there may not be a chance to perform well in U21. I understand, Mr. Arsena. Football players need various exercises, and U21 is already a very excellent display platform for me. Zhou Yang nodded. Arsene Wenger smiled with relief. You are already a qualified football player, at least that's how I feel when you run. Thank you, Mr. Arsena. I'm just trying my best to make football better. Zhou Yang smiled, and Wenger always gives his players confidence and strength. Later, Zhou Yang and Arsene Wenger left the locker room. When Arsene Wenger asked him if he needed to communicate with his family, Zhou Yang told him that he didn't have any relatives. He can make decisions on his own. Everything has developed better than in his previous life. Zhou Yang has a very clear goal, kicking out his value, chasing glory, and conquering the green fields that he couldn't imagine in his previous life. At the end of the weekend match, the training base was given a break, and player training is usually concentrated from Monday to Friday. On weekends, the training base hosts matches for the youth and reserve teams. For example, today's youth-friendly match between Arsenal and Leeds United. In the final friendly match, Arsenal's youth team won 3-1 against Leeds United. After Zhou Yang stepped off the field, Guerrero put up reinforced concrete and completely stabilized the score at 3-1. In this battle, Zhou Yang gained complete fame at the Corny training base. Zhou, let's celebrate later, shall we? Thomas walked over to the audience with a towel draped around his neck. Of course, I'm fine, Zhou Yang smiled. Charlie, Digai, Shuyina and other players in this game are all behind, with smiles on their faces, as if Zhou Yang is willing to go, making them feel happy. Wait for me, why don't you call me when you're celebrating? On the side, Oaks looked ugly. Ox, I already called you earlier. Charlie glanced at him. But you didn't come over. Ox, God gave us feet before we can walk. Don't just treat your feet as feet, we're already tired from running today. Charlie touched his head, and the bastard ox caused him to lose a ball. His handsome and charming blonde hair really wanted to shave him off. Oaks rose to fame and his performance today was really unsatisfactory. On the contrary, he is a Chinese boy who performs excellently. I'm also tired from running. Oaks, Charlie is getting rid of his gloves. You know, Charlie only takes off his beloved gloves when he wants to crush you. Thomas glared at him, I hope you can be as stunned as you were on the court when he beats you. The other few people laughed heartily, and Oak's performance today was indeed catastrophic. Hertfordshire is located north of London and is a vibrant, peaceful and beautiful countryside, only a 25-minute drive from the centre of London. The Arsenal youth training team called a taxi and prepared to go to a quiet small restaurant to celebrate. Of course, they do not allow drinking, and everyone understands the strict rules of the club. But eating is not a problem. Come on, let's loudly say today, who is the leader? Zhou Yang. Speak louder. Zhou. Ha ha ha. Toma waved the Arsenal towel. Zhou Yang quickly pulled him down. This is an open-air restaurant located in Hertfordshire, with a small bay not far in front. Arsenal's youth training players particularly enjoy dining and celebrating here, and the scenery is also very beautiful. The winter here still carries romance. If London is a bustling thoroughfare, Hertford is like a ruins town waiting to be explored. You can find beer and football in any corner. Restaurants, shops, cafes, and unique small shops, bars, etc., as well as Ye Old Fighting Cocks, which is said to be the oldest bar in England, is listed as the oldest bar in the world by Guinness Records, and its existence can be traced back to the 8th century AD. There are also parks here that are particularly suitable for leisurely strollers, as well as cobblestone streets that allow you to stroll around for a long time. Every year, there are various activities here, such as outdoor markets, food and music festivals, fireworks, etc. Undoubtedly, the beautiful scenery here is very suitable for physical and mental adjustment after the competition. Let's have a toast, come on. Oh, boss, you should exchange some bubble water for us. Toma looked dissatisfied and they ordered bubble water. Young men, the sparkling water is sold out today, you should drink some vitamins. The boss placed several bottles of vitamin drinks on the table. Athletes should finish their exercise and drink some inorganic salt and vitamin mineral drinks. Perhaps you could also have some milk, you're growing your body. No, we don't drink milk. My friends are all very strong, don't give us milk. The Arsenal boys who thought they had grown up were full of slander and refused milk. The bearded boss grabbed his own sling and laughed heartily. He certainly recognized them as Arsenal's youth academy children. Today I'll give you each a lamb skewer. It seems quite loud. Barnes, you should keep your voice down. You gave the young men lamb skewers. Other guests expressed dissatisfaction, and Barnes could speak louder and be more biased. Ha ha ha, Barnes is an Arsenal fan. He didn't hide his affection. Even on his desk, there are Arsenal figurines. Barnes, we are also your regular customers. You can't always favor one over another. Maybe you can try liking us. A few people slowly walked down the stairs, the speaker being an onion-haired young man, as tall and handsome as a Belgian boy. The faces of the other Arsenal players immediately changed. Oni. Tottenham Hotspur U18 shooters have an impressive record of 5 shots and 1 pass in 8 games, and they are also impressive. This group of people, wearing some clothing and bags, all have the Tottenham Hotspur team logo, and their identities are clearly revealed. Arsenal and Tottenham, the same city teams in North London, are not popular. Zhou Yang. Is it Zhou Yang? The person on the left cast a surprised look. It's really Zhou Yang, you're there too. Huang Linjiang was wearing a casual checkered shirt with a meaningful expression on his face. Huang, is this your friend? We are in the same youth training group, he shrugged. Why haven't I seen him? Ernie was puzzled for a moment, and he recognized all the other young men at Arsenal. Huang Linjiang chuckled and said, he hasn't even appeared on stage in U18, so of course you haven't seen him before. U18 can't even play. Ernie couldn't help but feel a wave of pity. I heard you haven't played many games at Arsenal yet. Huang Linjiang chuckled. Fortunately, we played a training match today, Zhou Yang nodded. Huang Linjiang sighed and said, Zhou Yang, it's a pity. I still want to play a game with you, but unfortunately I don't have this opportunity anymore. I'm not only a regular U18 player, but also playing in the English Youth Cup. I'm so busy. I don't even have time to play in friendly matches like yours. They're all substitutes in our team playing. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Hot State and Cold Start. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Hot State and Cold Start. U18 can almost be said to be the biggest stage for children to showcase their strength. Leeds United's strength today is in the U18 lineup, while Arsenal, except for Tomasz Siena and Charlie, are not the main players. In his previous life, Huang Linjiang performed well in Tottenham Hotspur's youth training and quickly secured a starting position in the U18. Later, he tried to play against the U21, but all kinds of matches were ruined. Not to mention physical confrontation, even midfielders couldn't hold the ball. Finally, they also switched to League One, similar to Zhou Yang. But as Zhou Yang worked harder and harder, Huang Linjiang lost his position in League One and didn't even have many opportunities as a substitute. In contrast, Zhou Yang can still play rotation frequently in League One. In the future, Huang Linjiang traveled through various small leagues, but later returned to China without making any achievements. Huang Linjiang always believes that it is someone else's problem and that he should not play at a lower level. It is because other lower-level teammates cannot cooperate with him. If you have the opportunity, you can come to Tottenham Hotspur training base to see our training, said Huang Linjiang. Yes, it will. Zhou Yang nodded and Arsenal players went to Tottenham Hotspur training ground. Normally, only matches would go. Over there, a few other people also greeted the young Tottenham Hotspur players. What an unpleasant meeting. Charlie shrugged his shoulders, and his tall head didn't seem to have an advantage over Ernie. Charlie has already been breached twice by Ernie. Zhou Yang smiled and comforted, you should try to think, you saved him a few dozen shots. Charlie was shocked for a moment. Oh my goodness, Zhou, this sentence from you makes me so happy. I seem to see the sun rising into the sky. Wake up, it's almost evening, Charlie. When you wake up tomorrow, it must be noon, and you can't see the sun rising. Zhou Yang patted his shoulder. Shit. Without a doubt, everyone is very tired today. Toma pushed over with a mineral drink and said, Zhou, has Mr. Arsena considered letting you play football at U18? Zhou Yang looked helpless. This issue should be a concern for many people in U18 now. I'm not sure yet, but I shouldn't be allowed to go to U18. Mr. Arsena is planning to let me go to U21. Thomas widened his eyes. It immediately became normal, as if not unexpected. Zhou's ability is very outstanding, as a forward who cooperates with him, I feel more clear than others. In my opinion, this is the right arrangement. Perhaps you can grow even better, I believe and am very certain. Thank you, Thomas. You can still succeed. Toma was not as confident as before and scratched his head. I'm satisfied if I can go to U21, he said. The gap at each level increases exponentially. Some young players in the U18 are completely defeated in the U21, while the so-called English Premier League reserve team U21 is completely defeated in the Premier League, which is incomparable. Sometimes in some English Premier League Cup matches, the first team is not allowed to play. They are all played against U21 teams, and against the main players in League One, they play back and forth, which shows how far the distance is compared to the first team. Each season in the Premier League, 25 players can be registered in the squad, with a maximum of 17 players from non-British backgrounds, such as those from clubs in other countries. The remaining 8 players must be trained by local British clubs. Then, in addition to 25 people, you can also register U21 players for this club, and U21 players for this club are not counted among the 25 people. English Premier League teams will register some U21s in the new season, and the U21s that come up will be used as benches to play deep in cup matches. Everything is possible through hard work. Talent is important, and hard work is also important. If you don't work hard, you really don't have a chance. Zhou Yang knew this truth in his previous life. Although it wasn't satisfactory at Arsenal, at least he played in League One, which is a bit of feedback from traveling to Europe. Otherwise, it would be regrettable. The gathering of the Arsenal youth team did not end until evening. Gradually, each team member went home individually, and Zhou Yang walked back directly. The place rented by the business company for him was not far away. Nothing needs to be paid before the age of 18. Since the departure of a fellow Hertford student, he has been living alone. So far, he doesn't know who the landlord is. "Hey, kid, do you need me to give you a ride?" It's Barnes, the boss of Open Air. Stepping on a tricycle, his brown leather shoes seem dirty today. He must have been playing football in the backyard of his restaurant again. Zhou Yang stopped by the roadside and said with a smile, "Barnes, we've already been very troublesome to you today." Barnes smiled. "You should understand that I earned your money." He patted the small stool behind the tricycle. The place where Barnes lives is not much different from Zhou Yang, and sometimes he would greet Barnes. Barnes would greet any Arsenal player. When we met before, Barnes had sent him to the Coney training base. The tricycle looks like a toy car, with a small green roof and a small red stool. "Young man, I always knew you were in Arsenal's youth academy, but I didn't expect you to score 2 goals and 1 pass today. Barnes, we should believe in something called God's favor, and I won't be able to achieve such a result next time." No, you can definitely do it. You're not inferior to them. I watch you train every morning, and you're like a little sun. It's only a matter of time before you rise, and you'll light up the sky in North London. Do you want me to often go to your place to eat lamb skewers? You should know that my weekly salary is only 100 apprenticeship gold. He quickly returned to his residence, a 2-story small residential building, a dining area on the first floor, and 2 rooms on the second floor, one of which was his. Rest well on the weekend. Zhou Yang let out a heavy breath. Coney training base. Zhou Yang came early on Monday. There is a lot of physical training, and the training content mainly involves repeatedly practicing passing, running, and shooting, so that various football skills are deeply rooted in their memory and muscles. In addition, after the age of 16, cultural course teachers will be hired to teach children knowledge. At least before the age of 20, they will be watching your math, physics, and chemistry. If you can't play football in the future, you should also have sufficient social life skills. Zhou Yang's performance in the 9-year compulsory education in China was not bad. After coming over at the age of 15, he learned language and adapted to culture, and it took him a year to finally communicate with the big guys. He was born in a welfare institution since childhood and has a strong adaptability among his peers. He has always lived a methodical life, until he became interested in playing wild football later on. His excellent adaptability since childhood allowed him to gradually adapt to life in North London. Today's Monday training is as usual. After completing the physical training, Zhou Yang came to the side alone and found a goal. He still has something to confirm again. Previously, when he volleyed and scored, he felt that the goal had changed in his pupils. I roughly checked, and after warming up for about 10 minutes, my physical fitness and various signs will enter a hot state. Then, I can start my B+ at activation. He rested for a while, waiting for his hot form to cool down and return to normal form. Charlie, come and help me, guard the goal, guy. You guys are harassing the current defenders. Okay. A few people nodded, which was also a form of training, with defensive guards and forward shooting. Zhou Yang placed the ball at the front of the penalty area curve, in a normal free kick position. Start training for fixed point long range shooting. A slight pause, on the left side of the outside edge of the penalty area, on the inside of the right foot. Bang. Draw an arc and land on the goalpost. Next, continue to bring the football back and place it. Out of 10 free kicks, a total of 9 were destroyed and saved by human walls, with only one shot entering. The above is a cold free kick. Next, he will try to drive the ball and shoot. Cold start for 10 meters. Zhou Yang's speed is not fast, and the guards and goalkeepers in the penalty area make him feel pressure, and he has no chance to shoot anywhere. On the right side of the arc at the front of the penalty area, sink your body and shoot from the back of your feet. Sure enough, he was blocked by the defender. Slowly, he tried about 10 times, and in the end, the result of shooting with the ball was that 8 feet were damaged, thrown or affected, kicked empty, 1 foot was hard to kick, and 1 foot was difficult to score. Attack data initiated in a cold state. Zhou Yang did another run to warm up. Quickly, he felt a change in body mass index and his starting speed entered a hot state. Let his buddies train with him again. The same ball and position, a free kick on the left front of the penalty area. The line of sight is significantly clearer. He stood in front of the ball, ran up slightly, lifted his right foot from the inside of his foot, and the ball took off, falling straight into the center of the goal in a downward arc. Shot out by Charlie's hands. Not bad. Continue to try. Arc down, ball in the net. Hot state free kick 10 times, scored 2 times, slightly improved, scored 1 more than cold state. This is the free kick data entering the hot state, which is significantly better than the cold state. A hot state can improve some physical indicators and affect oneself. Next, a sudden start in the hot state. He started running 10 meters with the ball. On the right side of the forward edge outside the penalty area, shake the defender open, and with a flick of the ball, a more abundant force appears. At the same time, the goal is slightly closer to his pupils, making it clearer. The ball is like thunder, crossing the penalty area. In. Zhou Yang, you're really good at playing this ball. Charlie applauded. The other few people also cheered. Zhou Yang smiled with joy in his heart. In a hot state, the attack is sharper, the running is faster, the strength is sufficient, and the vision is also better. Accelerate thermal mode, restart. This time on the left side of the front of the penalty area, shake off the defender and give the ball a flick. My body sinks, my shoulders are the same, my whole body is like an eagle hitting the sky. Right foot volley. The ball is like a bullet, hitting the far right corner. This volley from the left side of the front of the penalty area hits the upper right corner of the goal. Charlie's face changed drastically and he suddenly threw out with force. Zhou, continue. Charlie looked serious. As a goalkeeper, he is not afraid that you won't hit the ball, but he is afraid that he won't be able to throw a good ball. Destroyed by the attack. Defensive damage. Injecting get pounced. Zhou Yang continued to dribble for 10 meters, shook off the defender, dribbled the ball, adjusted the angle, and shot from the right side of the penalty area. In. Charlie touched it and still scored, on the left side of the goal. Oh no, I know now, Zhou. You're the one who's serious now, said the guy with a hint of resentment from a young woman, as Zhou Yang easily entered the right side of the penalty area. Ha, thank you for your compliment. Finally, there were 10 shots with a 10-meter dribble, 5 tackles, 1 post, and 4 goals scored. Multiple point shooting data inside and outside the penalty area for hot state activation. He continued to run the ball for 20 meters, outside the penalty area. If you run 10 meters in a hot state, the state will gradually lose after 2 seconds, and at this point, you have 4 seconds to adjust. A flick of the ball on the right side of the front edge of the penalty area felt like it was going too far. The defender stepped up and tried to cross to find the angle. Suddenly, the defensive player, goalkeeper, and goal formed a fixed picture in their mind through the world of pupils. In an instant, several possible shooting outcomes appeared in his mind, and he quickly filtered out the others, making his mind very active. Zhou Yang lightly pushed with one foot from a small angle. The ball moved quietly like a long snake, passing through the crotch of a defender and piercing into the left side of the net. Got it. Lower left corner. The small angle of the ball's secondary adjustment position hits the goal. Almost hit the pillar. Entering the penalty area, he dribbled the ball wide and the defender pushed it up. Zhou Yang chose to adjust the angle on the right side and then hit the bottom left corner with a push shot. Charlie was shocked. I didn't expect such feedback to happen again, Zhou Yang pondered. The volley was already out of angle. If you want to adjust for small angle shots or something like that, you need to look for gaps, and when you start wanting to make adjustments, your brain can perform excellent calculations. If you don't want to swing or hit the door without an angle, you can also try adjusting and calculating a better angle. If I start 30 meters hot and decelerate, I have a perfect state of 6 seconds. For example, if I rush from the back to the arc and my first shot doesn't have much chance, I can have 6 seconds to adjust to the excellent time. Good. Zhou. Charlie was excited, and his shot was a dead end. It's too difficult to hit the door at such a small angle. Undoubtedly, as their hot form starts, their defense and save difficulty will become increasingly difficult. The hot state is a slight improvement in various indicators, while the hot start is based on the slight improvement, and various indicators continue to improve. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Training. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Training. In fact, Zhou Yang's hot start left some room for effort, otherwise the data should still be high. But Charlie trains with him, he can't shoot too hard every time. The activation of the hot state not only improves speed and strength, but mainly relies on the clear calculation ability of the brain in the following seconds. Zhou Yang began to ponder. But personally, I also have obvious disadvantages. Zhou Yang's left foot cannot match his right foot. Normal shooting and dribbling are possible, but the threat from the right foot is not as great. This is also why he rarely uses his left foot. Practice it, your left foot cannot be of the same level as your right foot, nor can it be too poor. You can't stop practicing just because it's not good. As long as your left foot is normal and maintains a normal level, you don't need to be strong. No one is perfect, but you can't give up on yourself. Zhou Yang squatted on the ground, and he also needed to practice pulling the ball more. Zhou Yang stepped on the ball with his right foot and pulled it back, then flicked the back of his right foot 45 degrees outward. This is his usual shooting style. Get up and hit the door. The ball falls into the goal in an arc. I always feel like I remember something in the hot state after the previous game. One morning, Zhou Yang played on the left and right, enjoying himself. Drive the ball from the right to the inside of the penalty area, with a left foot in the upper right corner of the goal. He entered, but the angle was very poor, and the force made him very dissatisfied. Drive the ball into the penalty area, flick the outer back of the right foot 45 degrees, adjust the angle, rub the inner side of the right foot, and the arc falls into the upper left corner of the goal. Also it's not difficult to practice shooting without anyone defending. Undoubtedly, his right-footed shot from the left side is extremely threatening, and compared to his left-footed shot, it is more excellent. Time passed unnoticed. It seems that there are always some good memory points when training. There is always something in my memory, as if some muscle memories from the previous hot start state exist in my memory. Zhou Yang pondered deeply. Hot start drives the calculation of muscles and brain throughout the body, resulting in muscle memory and brain memory, because these are all abilities that one has done before. Admittedly, I cannot do it in my normal state, but when I do it in a hot state, it becomes a memory fragment left behind. He vaguely caught something, but vaguely missed it. Zhou Yang took a breath, picked up the ball, and threw his right foot into the air. The ball penetrated the penalty area and hit the goalpost. End, eat. Training, dining, resting, occasionally interspersed with some relatively simple cultural lessons for him, this is Zhou Yang's youth training life at Arsenal. In the glass of Arsenal restaurant, there are chicken breasts, pasta, eggs, milk, pizza, as well as rice and various vegetables, including salads made with egg yolks. At the end of the noon training, Zhou Yang independently selected a few dishes in the restaurant, bringing rice, steak, and vegetable soup, and quietly walked to the corner. The steak is okay, I just think it's delicious. The taste of vegetable soup is average. Rice is standard. Sometimes chicken or other vegetables are replaced, and in the morning, milk and eggs are replaced with cereal bread. Anyway, he eats very healthily. Apart from maintaining nutrition, the most important thing is that he is afraid of getting sick when he eats things recklessly outside, although he has been accustomed to taking care of himself since childhood. Zhou, you should find a broader perspective. You can't see the scenery outside here. Toma placed the plate on the table. As a non-resident, Toma was always friendly when facing Zhou Yang. Following behind are several other familiar U-18 members. My presence at the Coney training base is gradually becoming clear, especially within the U-18 community. I heard you practiced shooting all morning today. Toma's food is very rich, his main dish is pizza, and he also has pasta. He really likes pizza with pasta. I practiced for a while, Zhou Yang smiled. Are you preparing to play as a forward? Toma looked curious. No, I think a player needs to have shooting ability no matter where they are, Zhou Yang shook his head and said, because I have poor shooting ability and scoring ability, I need to practice shooting more. Thomas was puzzled for a moment, his shot was not good. The long-range shot before was a big eye-opener for him. But Charlie said you kicked him with a disheveled face today, and he said you played a few great goals, much better than before. Charlie is humble, and only a few goals are very good. Who else can't kick a few good shots with just a few dozen feet? Thomas thought for a moment, it seems like this is the truth. But they all agreed that Zhou Yang must have been practicing secretly during this period. Zhou Yang smiled and asked, where did you go this morning? Why didn't you see me? I had a bad stomach this morning and almost got scolded to death by Andreas, Thomas said with a gloomy expression. Andreas is the head of Arsenal's youth training. I just came from Wolfsburg not long ago and used to be an assistant coach at Wolfsburg. Mainly, I have another game to play this week, and he thinks I have a problem with my diet in private, which is why I ate my stomach badly. Toma covered his face, looking extremely regretful. He is a U-18 forward, and besides him, there is also a U-18 forward named Clay. The two of them have similar abilities, sometimes they play together, and sometimes Clay matches with another Perna forward. The three of them serve as the main forwards in the 442 formation in the U-18 league. However, Clay won't be able to make it to this week's U-18 game, so it should be Toma playing 442 with Perna. The 442 formation of Arsenal in the U-18 match is not bad, and Zhou Yang has also seen it. This should be the last Arsenal U-18 game before the winter window. End of this chapter.